What's going on, Trophy Kids? We got an awesome episode here for you today. We're talking about the national championship game, what we like from a pick standpoint, matchups, how we feel it's going to play out. We're also talking about Urban Meyer potentially going to the NFL, little college hoops talk. It's a good one. Let's go. And welcome to Trophy Kids presented by Bad News Media. As always, I am your host, Nate. It is Friday the 8th. And we have got Tim and Dante on the line today. How are we doing today, gentlemen?
We are back.
Yeah, back. Doing well. 2021. Let's do it.
2021.
Yeah, new year.
I'm still, unfortunately, I saw all the memes like, oh, nobody's going to write 2020 down on all their stuff. Nope. Caused a bit of a filing issue on some documents I had to submit recently with a 2020 date on there. So, yeah, no, still doing that.
That's so funny. My girlfriend and I were doing crossword puzzles, and she was like, okay, we completed this crossword puzzle on January 6th, 2020. I was like, nope.
Without fail, every year. Without fail. I thought this year would be different because 2020 was just such a stupidly dumb, horrible, whatever adjective you want to fill in there year. But nope, still rolling with the 2020, my paperwork. Either way, we are rolling into the new year. And it's probably the saddest week of the year for me because college football ends this upcoming week on Monday, and the NFL is now into the playoffs, which is exciting for my Bucks are in there, as I talked about on yesterday's podcast. If you haven't checked it out, take a listen. We give out our picks there. We're going to talk about the national championship game here in a moment. Same warning as I gave at the NFL pod, though. The pick I'm giving out, I don't know about you guys, is going to be a hold until testing is finished. Because this could change wildly from what we say today to what is actually there on Monday. So, I'll tweet out my pick officially on Monday morning, but we'll talk about it as things stand today. Ohio State, Bama, lines at 8, over-unders 57. This is the biggest line in a national championship game, I think. I know it's the highest total in a national championship game so far. Where are we standing? How are we feeling going into this? Where is our headspace here?
Yeah, so let's first say I am not an Ohio State fan, but I was sure glad to see them beat Clemson.
Dude, I was 100% wrong in Ohio State. 1,000%. Was happy because I don't like Dabo. Dabo makes an ass of himself every time he opens his mouth, it seems like. But was 1,000% wrong on Ohio State. So, hand up apology on that one.
I think for Ohio State, like I would love to say that, oh yeah, OSU is gonna win. They're gonna prove that the Big Ten deserve to be in the college football playoffs. But after watching that Notre Dame game, I don't know if Ohio State has the personnel for this game.
It's not even Ohio State having the personnel. I mean, Alabama just looks way too good to me.
Yeah, I mean, Alabama's the best team in the country all season long. I would definitely not disagree with that. There's a reason they're the highest favorite, I think, in the history of the national championship game since the playoff era. Sorry, not like in the history of all national championship games. I don't know on this one. There's a part of me. So I think we can break down the X's and O's. I want to talk about the motivational factor here for a second. Do you give any credence to the fact that, because that Ohio State team against Clemson was not an Ohio State team I've seen all year. I don't know about you guys. I don't think I've seen that Ohio State team once in the 6 games they played. They were physical at the point of attack. Justin Fields looked phenomenal, as we thought he would look this year, but for most of the year he looked lost anytime he got pressured. That game he looked phenomenal. Do we give any credence to the fact that Clemson might be, at least in right now, day and age, the game that Ohio State gets up for the most? And I'm not talking just like from almost like a mini rivalry right now, because they seem to really hate Clemson. And does that, what we saw yesterday, or not yesterday, last week, take kind of like prevent or cause a potential letdown spot here from a motivational standpoint? Not even before we talk about X's and O's matchups, but just a pure motivational standpoint. Do you think feels like it takes out the wind a little?
I don't really feel like it takes out the wind a little. I do agree with you that they really got themselves up to play Clemson because they really hate them. But what it really boils down to with them too is they really felt like they had a shot last year and they should have won the game against Clemson. So they really also felt that they had a shot to win the national title, not just to beat Clemson. So, yeah, I think they're determined to try and win that national title game this year. And I don't think that necessarily leaves a spot for a potential letdown here from a motivational spot or from a motivational standpoint.
Yeah, I somewhat agree with that. For me, I always I think because it's a national championship game, energy will be there. It almost feels like Clemson's turned into sort of like a mini rivalry and like their most heated. Like I feel like they have more passion for that game than when they play Michigan or Michigan State almost. Like I feel like the energy level, like watching those players play, that was a completely different Ohio State team than we've seen all year. And part of that I think is just that adrenaline and that kind of like fiery of, oh, we're playing Dabo, we're playing Clemson, let's go type of deal.
Well, I think too, like Dabo did a lot to stir the pot for Ohio State by opening his mouth, which he does all the time. I wish they
Number
would just
11.
Stop him from talking. And I think I agree with you a little bit here, Nate, that this is sort of turn it into like a rivalry, a playoff rivalry for OSU and Clemson. The other thing that like was noticeable and during that game is I think Clemson is still used to like, even when they play Ohio State, like disrespecting the team that they're playing in the semi finals, because they're like, we're going to the championship, so whoever's in the semi, because we've seen them come from behind too many times, and it just ran out this last game.
I agree with that. That Clemson team. So we'll talk about this game, but I feel like it's fair to talk about the Clemson team here for a second. That was terrible. Like that was an embarrassment for Clemson because that defense was Swiss cheese. I mean, they let up something like 669 yards or something like that, I think. The offense, and I'm like half joking with this, but there's a part of my dumb sports brain that's like, red flag on Trevor Lawrence almost. Not really, but like he's supposed to be this second coming of the greatest quarterback of all time. And in the two biggest games in the last 2 years, he struggled pretty bad. He struggled in the national championship game last year, and he struggled in this game. Now, that's not to say that he's to blame for this loss, because that defense was horrific. So, like, it's not on his shoulders. But he also didn't play great. Like, he didn't play as if the first pick, greatest quarterback to come out of college in a long time type of player.
Right, he didn't, and it's almost like that Clemson offense can't take a punch in the face. They can deliver the punches, but they cannot take a punch in the face and bounce back. Like T. Higgins just disappears in big games, and so Trevor Lawrence misses his safety outlet.
Yeah,
it's tough to do that as a quarterback when your screen pass or your dump down pass, your automatic go-to pass just disappears.
Yeah. Also, I think Clemson abandons the run very quickly a lot of times.
Insane. Yes. I was talking about that.
Did I say T. Higgins?
Yeah, you said T. Higgins. I think
meant
you meant
Travis
Etienne. Yeah. I was gonna correct it when I came back around. I knew that's who you were talking about. Let that go on
for way too long.
Yeah. Dude, they abandoned the run way too much. Travis Etienne is a monster, and I don't feel like he gets. And I was talking about this with my girlfriend when we were watching the game. Like he didn't get enough touches this year. Just like throughout the year, they went away from him in the run game.
Or like what Tim said, they'll do like that. They'll dump the screen to him, or like pitch to him. When I'm like, just let him run it out the backfield.
Yeah, 100%. Like there's a point of getting your backs into open space and creating a play, but when that's all you're doing, it becomes predictable, and the linemen can pick up on it. Like they can stay home, and they can feel, they know the guards are pulling and things like that. So that was probably the most shocking part, was just how much more physically dominating Ohio State felt, and that comes from like an energy and effort standpoint, because the Ohio State defense, which has not been good all season, was insane at the point of attack. I mean, the defensive line owned Clemson's offensive line. The linebacker core looked good, and the secondary wasn't terrible. And they've been bad all year, which was shocking, which is, I think, going to be an Achilles heel that gets exposed in this game, to kind of circle back to this, because the Ohio State secondary is my biggest concern here, and why. Like, if Alabama was at 7, I'd love this. Because the Ohio State secondary has given up the most passing yards in the Big Ten this season. And so, what do we know about Alabama? Well, we know they have the Heisman Trophy winner in Devontae Smith, who is insane. We know they have Mac Jones, who loves to push the ball, and they might get Waddle back, including Harris. Like, the offensive weapons to push the ball down the field to the point, because Harris is so good in the backfield, you're going to have to man up on the wide receivers every once in a while, and they can burn you, especially if Waddle comes back, which he apparently right now is a game-time decision. Who knows if he'll actually play, but if they get him back with Devontae Smith, holy shit, are they going to be burning people? Is my thought
that's
initially.
something I'd be very, very worried about. I mean, they were very physical at the point of attack, and even their wide receivers or their cornerbacks. I mean, everybody was really flying around on that defensive side of the ball for Ohio State. I don't know that I see that happening again, though.
Yeah, that's going to be the biggest part. They have to be physical. Like, this game will be won in the trenches almost, because you've got the Alabama offensive line, who's the best in the country. They won the Jim Moore Award this year. And then you got the Buckeyes defensive line, where, what's his name, Haskell is a force to be reckoned with. And you've got really good point of attack last game. But my concern with Ohio State, and it's why I locked Clemson in last week, is just what we've seen over 6 games was not the team we saw in Clemson. So do we get the team that we saw over the first 6 games of the season, or do we get the team that played so physical, so fast, so dominant on Monday night? Is my biggest. I don't know. But if we do, I like Ohio State at 8. But if we don't, they're going to get murdered.
There's no close game in this one. There's no in between. I feel like that line is split between like a blowout and a close game. There's no like it's going to be a 14-point game, and I feel good about that.
Yeah. No, what was that? Georgia, Alabama. What was that? 2 years ago? 3 years ago?
Where they blew them out, or where it was close?
It was close.
That was that the SEC champ? That was the national. That was when Tua came in, so that would have been 2 years ago, right? He came in relief
Sounds
for
about right.
Jalen
Yeah,
Hurts 2 years ago. 2 years ago. 2 years ago. Yeah. He came in relief.
It's probably the most exciting game I watched in the championship in a while.
I would agree. There's a part of me, like, if you're better who likes Ohio State, I would probably start to grab the number here, because if they don't have COVID issues, this number's probably coming down by Monday, I would think, because Alabama, because there's no uniform testing in the NCAA, which is so weird, but Alabama doesn't have to test again after Friday. So, like, no matter what happens, they test on Friday, they're done. Like, they're not going to test all the way through until Monday. Ohio State has to test all the way through Monday. So, like, if Ohio State doesn't have any problems, and you like Ohio State, I feel like this line's probably going to come back down to 7, maybe even 6 by the time we get to game time. But if you like Alabama, I think you're holding out on the number right now, right?
Let me let you in on a little secret here. Ohio State is not going to report that they have any COVID cases.
Yes.
Well, they've got it.
Well, Dante, let me let you in on a little secret. Vegas knows everything.
Yeah, this is very true. Very true. Which is why I think we'll probably be fine here. But if you like Alabama, I don't know. It's just this line at this point in time, I'm holding off on everything because I don't know something could pop up. COVID issues could happen before Monday. But I look at Alabama, their defense has struggled against mobile quarterbacks and teams who can push the ball deep and down the seams. What can Ohio State do? They got a mobile quarterback and they can push the ball down the seams, especially with Wilson and Olave. As long as they're good to go, as long as they're the players that don't have COVID issues right now, which I assume Olave won't because he already had that earlier.
Yeah, he just got back from it.
Yeah, he just got back from it. So if they have both those guys go, like that was what Notre Dame was missing. Notre Dame was missing that kind of big electric play guy who could push the ball down the field because they were controlling the clock. They held Alabama to the lowest score all season.
Yeah.
There's an argument that Alabama took their foot off the gas a little bit, but still held them to the lowest score all season. They controlled the ball. They just had no explosiveness. They couldn't get a big play. Ohio State can get the big play. And Alabama has struggled against mobile quarterbacks and guys who can kind of push the ball. But there's also no stopping this Alabama offense.
Yeah, they can do both at Ohio State with the explosive plays. I mean, they can go fast and they can go slow. I mean, imagine the kind of season that Trey Sermon would have had if the Big Ten played a real season this year.
Dude, talk about a power move
Like,
with Brian Day. Just
where does he come from?
just waiting to let the nation know he's got the best back in the country halfway through the season. Like, what was this? Where was he from the start? Like, why was he not the starting back all year?
I don't know how you missed that. I don't know how he's not the starting back all year.
That's another
It's just
thing.
insane.
He's fresh. There's a freshness to this Ohio State team. They don't have as much wear as Alabama. Now, there's a question of how much wear. Yeah, how much wear does Alabama really have after playing through this SEC game? But they only played 6 games. You've got a fresh back in Trey Sermon. I fucked up the name.
Trey Sermon.
Thank you. You know
Wouldn't
names.
be the first time.
Names and me do not go along. But I mean, this is giving me slight, like, Ezekiel Elliott, Ohio State can dominate it on the run, and then can get a big
seed to winning the
big
national
play.
title,
Does it not?
you know.
I mean, like, he's.
I mean, it kind of is.
It kind of
kinda
is. Is this not
Especially
like?
if Justin Fields comes through like he did last week. I mean,
It's 50
that was
Shades
just
of Ezekiel
insane
Gray.
to watch like a college football player go into the booth, get shot up with a few needles, and then right back out on the field.
Yeah. Let's see if that lingers, if any of that injury lingers.
That is another concern, is how stiff will he be? I mean, they'll probably give him that shot they were giving Tyrod.
And then at halftime, yep.
Hopefully they don't
So it'll
puncture a lung here, but like that, whatever that, I remember, I think
I
it
don't
was,
think your lung goes down to your hip, though. I
did
think
they
he's all the way
puncture?
down into his hip.
Yeah,
It
or
was
his
on his
ribs,
hip.
right?
I thought it was his ribs.
Oh, really? I thought it was his
Yeah,
hip.
I thought it was his
I
rib.
thought
Because
he got hit on the hip.
what was it, Pat McAfee?
I know he looked like he got folded in half.
He got hit
But-
hard.
hard,
Yes.
which was a nonsense, like, I get by the rule, but whatever. I'm not getting into that today. That'll send me off on another bit. We got other things to talk about here. But he'll probably get that shot that they were going to give Tyrod that just, like, completely numbs you for, like, 4 hours. They'll give it, like, right before the game, and he won't feel a thing. He'll be fine.
Hopefully they don't miss.
And
I mean, you could see him wincing like throughout the rest of the game every time he threw the ball.
it's incredible, though, that
Not
he
even
did it.
just throwing the ball. Did you see that gif of him trying to get on the exercise bike just to stay warm?
Looked like every person hitting the gym January 1st this year.
Yeah.
All right, picks have to meet. I think, with all things considered, with Ohio State's secondary being so bad, I mean, the key for them is can that offensive line or defensive line get any pressure, especially up the middle, to make Mac Jones uncomfortable, to speed up the game, speed up the time, to help out that secondary, because I think that secondary is just going to get burned. Alabama's defense has struggled with teams like Ohio State that can run the ball but really have mobile quarterbacks and could attack the seams, like I said. I think I like the under because it's just a little too high, and I think I like Bama at 8. If it's at 7, I think I love Bama.
What is the over again?
57. It's high, dude. It's
That's
never.
high,
I think it. I don't even.
but I'm going the over. Mainly because I think I like to pick bets that I like to root for.
Fair.
So
How I normally
I like to root
do
for
it.
points, and I'm going the over in this game.
Oh man, I know.
And because you're going the under. So I will take a sacrifice for the trophy kids here, because when Nate and I are usually on opposite sides, there is one loser, and more often than not, it is me. So I would suggest to follow his picks, but I'm going with the over.
I think I'm going under. I would rather die in the over than die in the under, but it's so high, especially for a national championship game. And
It's high, but Alabama's defense is like broken.
I know.
Alabama's defense is not that good. They struggled against Ole Miss.
Yeah, Nate, Ole Miss.
All right, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait to see what happens.
They struggled against Ole Miss. I mean,
I get
Notre
that.
Dame doesn't have the greatest offense, and they never really have. And
Notre Dame was
they
out there
more-
playing Big Ten football.
yeah, they more look lost out there on offense than like actually being stopped on by the defense.
All right, if there are no COVID issues, I'm going over. I'm going over.
And
Fuck it.
Ohio
We're
State's
going over.
defense
We're
is
entering the
also bad.
season on an over. We're ending the season on an over. All right, I'm going over 75 if there's no COVID issues.
Should have kept my mouth shut.
And I'm
Sorry.
going
Yep, you should have,
Bama.
Tim. You should have said anything.
Sorry,
So now
Tim.
the game is
Now we're
going.
on the same
The game
side,
is
so
going
now
to be
it's definitely
15,
going over.
17.
Yes, it's going over. We're going over, boys. We're taking the over. We're dying on the over. To wrap this into it, do we think Ryan Day? I always call him Brian Day. Once again, not a names guy. We think this puts him into the top 4 coaches in college football right now.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah,
Because here's,
Top 4 coaches.
I know you say that, but
name me 4. Who are the 4 coaches before him?
He's number 3.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not making I'm playing devil's advocate. I don't
Not even
disagree.
close.
I think he coached circles around Sweeney here, but
Yeah.
he's only in year 2. There's still a lot of Urban guys. Can he stay consistent with it?
But Ohio State, like Alabama
Do you
and
put
any of
any
these other
credence to that?
programs,
It's
I'm just
Alabama,
playing devil's advocate.
Clemson, and
I agree
Ohio
with
State,
you.
The rest of the college football.
yeah,
There's nobody else.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I'm putting it out there. I'm trying to think in my head if I would make anybody because I wouldn't take Kirby,
No.
Riley
Ryan
Lincoln.
Kelly. Like who are you gonna pick?
Lincoln would probably be the only one that even comes close, but I don't think.
Trey Sermon left there to go play for a national title.
Yeah, but he's also. I mean, Lincoln's done some.
Yeah, but has Lincoln won a
He's-
national
I was-
championship?
I was gonna. Well, Day hasn't either yet. He's in the national championship. The thing that he has over him is he's won a playoff game. The problem is he's only in year 2. But I agree. I think we put him now into the conference. I think he has landed legitimacy of we're not gonna taper off too much from Urban. If not, maybe exceed Urban.
Oh, they're up there.
I think he's probably gonna succeed Urban in what Urban did there. I think because he seems.
I don't.
Dude,
So I think he's a
What
better
he
coach,
did-
but I don't think I don't think he'll do better than Urban. And the reason for that is I think he'll jump to the NFL pretty damn quick here.
that's
I think he'll
possible.
be in the next year or two. I think
Ryan Day.
yeah, I think the reason that Luke Fickell stayed at UC was because he got some words from Ohio State to say stay at UC for a year or two.
I gotta
that's
mark this
interesting.
down in my notes app for if this ever happens, so I can retweet this. We're timed.
Oh, because this isn't the first time I've thought.
I know,
That. I
you
thought I had
s-
said that on
you
here
said it-
before.
I think you
said it-
have.
You
I've
said it when I was
mentioned
like,
this on here
Luke's gonna
before,
go.
and
Yeah, someone
it
else.
might have been when you guys weren't really paying attention to me, but but
Definitely said it
that's
in the
really
group
what I
chat.
think.
You said it
few
when I was
times.
talking about Luke Fickell to a Michigan or something if that job type of opened, or not a Tennessee because they don't want to go to the SEC, but like a
Yeah, I
Texas or
thought I might have
something.
said that when he initially turned down Michigan State, but
Yeah,
maybe not.
we'll see. But I agree. I think Day is now he's top tier, his own man. I think because he coached circles around Dabo. I think that puts him. I think that separates him from he's winning on Urban's talent to he's his own guy. He's a top tier coach going to cement a legacy there. Speaking of Urban, NFL thoughts because I forgot to cover
I
this
don't
in the
know.
end. NFL.
Yeah. So I read a crazy tweet that said Urban Meyer was asking for $12 million.
Oh, without a doubt. He's asking for $12 million. I mean, because Matt Rule is making $10 million with his jump from college. Urban's making $6 to $8 million doing nothing, watching college football all day.
It
Why
is.
would you leave that for anything but double your salary?
I guess that's true. I guess if you look at it like that, I guess I'm at the point of and of course Urban Meyer is obviously a phenomenal coach, but he hasn't coached in 2.5 years.
So that's my thing. Don't get me wrong. Urban is a phenomenal coach. One of the greatest college football coaches of all time. Key word there is college football coach. This paying college coaches huge money like the Matt Rule, who turned out to be a good bet right now, but
Kind of working.
we're going to figure out how much of that was Joe Brady and how much of that was Matt Rule because I think Joe Brady plays a very big part in that. In the success
But
the
we're not going
Panthers
to
have.
find out how much for
Brady's
another year
gonna-
or so. Do you think
they're-
he'll get one this year?
Yeah, there's rumors that he might get a job this year. I think the Texans are interviewing him, and I forget who else is interviewing him. But the
I mean, who?
who? Sorry, what?
What coach? Who's being interviewed?
Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator for the Panthers.
Joe
He's the
Brady,
LSU guy last year.
Yeah.
The Texans gave him a real interview, and I forget who else. Let's put it in the Google machine.
Texans aren't giving anybody besides Josh McDaniels
Dude, that would be
an
so
interview.
funny.
They're trying to become the Patriots so bad, and Deshaun Watson wants none of it.
0.
0.0% of it. He wants out now.
Yeah. I don't know if he is going to go, but we'll see. Either way, back to my original point, the college point. I'm getting sidetracked here. I bet if you were to put a bet out there, will X, Y, and Z coach be successful making the jump from college? Like a very high successful, high-profile college coach will be successful in the NFL. I'll almost always take not successful. It's just a completely different beast and animal. Like you cannot do the same things you do with college kids that you do with NFL players. Like these are grown-ass professionals, and that's the mindset of switching from the college coach to the NFL coach mindset is a harder switch to flip, I feel like, because we've seen it fail so many times, and it always leads back to losing it's not so much the X's and O's and the game plan type of thing or the hiring of the staff. It almost always has to do with personality not matching the NFL. And
Yes.
Urban is
can't talk to kids.
and Urban
Can't
feels
talk
like a
to
guy
I think
who
it is going to start becoming different, though. Like, I think, like, a guy like Lincoln Riley, like, I don't think he uses the same, like, gimmick tactics. And
I
think,
don't
like,
agree with that. Or I don't disagree.
I think
Yeah.
there's a few people that it'll work for. Urban's very old school, though, where I don't know if it'll work.
It's a very
Urban's
small.
very old school.
Yeah,
like
it's a
Ryan Day might be able to flip it into the NFL. There's a few college coaches that might be able to flip it into the NFL where they don't use the same, like, we're dealing with kids here concept when they're coaching.
It's that Pete Carroll Hollywood style. Like that's what you have to have.
Right. Yeah.
Like a little bit more free flowing. That's what they have down in Oklahoma right now. It does feel more like it doesn't feel as stiff, restrict college atmosphere. It feels I don't know how to like Hollywood. Like that's essentially what it feels like. You have to be the Pete Carroll version essentially because that's you're exactly right, Tim. Like Urban is the guy.
It's the CEO role rather than the drill sergeant role.
Right.
Like most, like you have like 75% of college coaches are still going to be the drill sergeant person where they lead from a top down, like drill sergeant, like very regimented. But if you got the guy that's like CEO where he lets his offensive coordinator do whatever the hell he wants, he lets his defensive coordinator do whatever the hell he wants, and he's just kind of there like making sure everything's going well, those are the guys that are going to translate more to the NFL.
100% agree.
Then
I think the only something in the good box for Urban Meyer is like when he was at Bowling Green and when he was at Utah, like he was there to rebuild. And so if he is going to go to Jacksonville, you know, he won't be in unfamiliar territory.
And if he may or may not be successful, he goes to the NFL. I would say the one benefit I can say right off the bat is it might make Trevor Lawrence's transition a little bit easier to have a more drill sergeant, Urban Meyer type, Dabo type. They're all cut from the same cloth, like type of guy. For that,
Dabo's weird though. I don't like him.
Yeah,
he's weird. I'm not saying that, but I'm talking about.
Don't throw him into all these.
I'm talking about from like a disciplinary, like college structure guy. And Urban's the other part I was gonna mention. I don't think this is good for Urban. Urban's going to die in the NFL. This dude has a heart attack every time LSU or Ohio State either lost the game or came like 3 seconds from losing the game. He ain't going to win a lot of games in the NFL down in Jacksonville. It's a great job because they are, if they do it right, they can really build something down in Jacksonville. They have the capital. They have the draft picks. They got the number 1 pick to go get a guy this year. Like it's a very attractive job, but it's going to take a minute. And
Urban Meyer had literal killers on his team in Florida. So
dude, that 30 for 30
back into the whole well down in Florida.
Yeah, 30 years, not 30. I don't know what I'm saying here. Either way, that 30 for 30 should have been made a long time ago in that Florida team. All right. Wild is I don't even feel like begins to describe what that Florida team was. You
have not seen that 30 for 30. Go do yourself a favor and watch it.
They need to make it. This is what I'm talking about. Like they had the Pouncey brothers selling drugs out of the fucking dorm rooms. They had Aaron Hernandez. They had Riley Cooper, the racist. They got fucking Tim Tebow, Jesus Christ himself. And then you got what was his
Cam Newton was there at the time.
Cam Newton was the backup.
Cam Newton got kicked out.
And there was a linebacker there that was like amazing, but like out of his mind. I feel like, yeah, it's that team was crazy. I mean, insanely good on the field, but absolutely crazy.
They should make that tomorrow.
Yes, 100%. Sorry, I cut you off there, Tim. You threw your hand up like we were in class to say something.
Oh, just in class. I was going to try and make the transition now to the next topic, but that's what the little hand gesture was. I would actually cut you off if it was in the middle of the conversation.
Fair.
Okay.
If it was on the same
inside
topic.
baseball, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. Well, how the sausage gets made.
So, anyways, staying on. Well, we're not even really staying on topic at all. I was going to try and take it from college football and talk about how ridiculous it is that it's played on Monday night.
Dumbest thing in the world. I hate it. It's so dumb.
It's so dumb. I don't know how the NFL hasn't captured moving their games to Sunday and Monday. Like, I know they want the Saturday audience, but the fact, because the NFL, you're just used to having it on Sunday and Monday.
Yeah.
The fact that it goes to Saturday and Sunday, it just throws your whole weekend off, and there's no college football on Saturday. And then you got to wait till Monday, and you don't really care about a college football game on Monday, but you would have cared about an NFL football game on Monday. So it's just wild to me.
Or just don't have a night game in the NFL. Like, have day football for the NFL, because that's like all the college fans. I feel like that's a good way to get the college fans who are used to watching football all day Saturday. You have the NFL.
It could just be the 8 o'clock game.
Yeah, and then you put the national championship game at the 8 o'clock spot. Like, this isn't rocket science here, people.
And you would get a lot more casual viewers too, right?
Yes.
The ones who are just watching football all day, yeah.
100%. Or you'd get the NFL people who don't transition over to college as much. I mean, they bleed over, but there's a lot that don't. Like Ryan, who does the pod with me sometimes, he doesn't really care. I mean, he watches college football, but like he's not watching unless it's a giant game. But like you'd get fans that really bleed into that, which he'd watch this one. So that kind of defeats the point I was making. But you'd get some fans bleeding into this that you wouldn't normally have bleeding into this. Plus, I want to watch the college football game on a Saturday. I want to drink on my couch and watch the college football game on a Saturday and not have to worry about getting up for work the next morning. I get up and then watch football. This isn't hard. I don't ask for a lot in this world.
That being said, too, am I one of the dumb ones, or am I one of the sports fans where like I want to be able to watch a game on TV? I want to be able to watch it on like a cable network or something along those lines. I don't want to have to be able to figure out how to find the streaming. I want to flip the channel, or at least be able to pick the right streaming station and know where exactly I'm going. So like building off of that, the World Junior Championship, the USA team, I mean, they buried that thing on NHL Network and I had no idea.
I didn't know I didn't have an NHL Network. I tried to go watch it. I have every other sports channel in the book. Literally every other sports channel. Somehow I don't have the NHL Network. Couldn't get it.
Me too. I figured that out. I found that out. They don't even offer it to Spectrum, or I don't know. I couldn't figure it out, and so I gave up. I just, one of the things I don't understand is a sport that wants to grow and they bury in their target market a game that people could get behind.
Yeah.
It's just insane. People that could relate to. I mean, you're talking about watching like anywhere from 16, 17 to 19-year-old kids that are playing this game, and you get to start that following so young, and they bury it behind a subscription that you got to pay for. Rather, they don't even offer it for pay-per-view. Like, that would have been something that I would have paid $5, $10, $15 just to watch USA Canada.
It's very, like, you're right. Like, the sport of hockey wants to grow and become a major, or they are a major four, but like really kind of overtake baseball, which I don't know, they may.
I mean, baseball is effing up.
Yeah,
so.
They pulled the baseball move essentially.
They pulled the baseball.
They pulled the baseball
move. Their own network when they could have just put it. Hell, stream it on Twitter, stream it on Twitch,
or just CBS.
I'll figure something like that out too. But like, when it comes to just putting it on your own network and burying it behind a paywall, just makes no sense to
Like,
me.
what was on NBC Sports that night? Or NBC for that matter. Just throw it on there. Yeah, that is dumb. It was dumb. I tried to search for it. I mentioned it on last night's episode. I didn't realize it was such a big event. My Twitter feed, like, I knew it was there, but like, for whatever reason, we very much care about junior hockey in this country, and it has blown up my feed for the last like week and a half, 2 weeks.
I think it makes sense because like when you're in high school, like all those kids who were doing travel hockey for so long, and now I think it's like kind of has bled into like mainstream.
Oh yeah,
It kind of like AAU basketball. That same concept, right?
yeah, that's a good point. Actually, I feel like
Yeah, I mean, I was watching high school basketball over the last couple months.
yeah, like if we had a U20 team instead of, but it's not like I don't feel like I shouldn't say that because it does blow up about the Olympics, but it doesn't blow up about like when we have our World Cup team go or whatever. Like,
Well, it is a lot like watching the World Cup though too. I
no,
mean,
it
that's
is.
what
I'm
it's
just
like
saying
for
I don't
me,
remember
yeah.
the reaction being like I don't remember everybody feeling like everybody's talking about it for that.
Yeah,
Like I do
I
with
think
juniors is what I'm saying.
for the World Cup, if more of like the one and dones in college were actually playing in those like games, those under 20 or whatever, I think people would watch them. I think basketball has the luxury of not like those players never having to venture outside of the NCAA or the NBA, whereas like soccer, baseball, hockey, the star players do have to play in those type of games in order to get their name out there and
Yeah.
what have you.
Well, yeah, even with the World Juniors though too. I mean, it was a weird year this year too. You had like legitimate NHL
Mm-hmm.
stars going back to the juniors to play because their camps hadn't started yet and their teams hadn't started playing yet.
No.
I mean, you had
Fair.
you had some very prominent NHL players, not just first round draft picks, that were going back and playing.
Yeah, I mean I'm down for it. I'm down for it all. I mean, it's a sporting event. It's a U.S.
Oh.
sporting event. It's a hockey sporting event. Like I'm all down
No,
for it.
You explicitly weren't for it,
But-
and that's what we have to tell you.
I just
And Nate, if you're thinking of the World Cup too, the reason that it wasn't all over the place is because the U.S. wasn't in it.
no
Oh,
for
that's
hockey,
true.
not the
We
World. The
we
World Cup's the
also
bad. The World Cup's the
Did
bad
not qualify for the last World Cup, which is insane.
for the World Championship of Hockey, like the FIFH or whatever.
I don't even know what that is.
This is what I'm talking about.
honest.
I'm pretty
Okay.
sure. Yeah, I'm pretty. This is
I
what
know
I'm.
that's a thing. Yes, that is a thing.
Yeah, nobody talks.
But
This is
this
what I'm
year-
talking about. Nobody
Well,
talks
that's
about
also
that.
that's also because they blocked the NHL players from playing in it.
See, this makes more sense. Yeah, I
So
said
they
this last time.
they stopped the NHL players from being allowed to go play in the Olympics this year. So they weren't allowed to do it.
That makes so much more
So
sense.
it was a bunch of randoms. So it didn't really matter. That's why nobody was really talking about that.
That's
Whereas
dumb.
'Cause
whereas
the
the
Ice
juniors,
Hockey
people were
Federation-
talking about it because the teams actually were willing. They didn't want to block their young kids from being able to go star for their home team, their home countries, which is an odd situation because it's a bad example because he ended up getting hurt. But Kirby Doc, who was a bona fide top 6 guy for the Blackhawks last year, he goes to Team Canada and his captain is able to be able to prove himself as kind of a star because he gets that opportunity to kind of put a team on his back. I mean, that's what they were thinking. Now it's a bad example because he got hurt. He's
Yeah.
out for like
I do
a
remember
long
that now that
time.
you say that.
Not good, but yeah.
I do remember now that you say that. I remember that story being there. But that's what I was thinking of when I saw all this. I was like, because the Hockey Federation puts on a world championship. I don't feel like anybody's talking about that ever. And that's like those are like our big guys, like our older guys. Like we're getting hyped for under 20, which fair. It was electric. Like that team seemed like a lot of fun from all the stuff I was seeing on social media. I was just taken back by like, I don't remember ever seeing this for like when our professionals were going at it for like the world championship or anything like that. That was basically my takeaway.
Yeah, I think it's because they have a following on social media and they are that age that's grown up in the social media era too. So it's
Very
a
true.
mixture of both.
Very true. All right. Let's talk some college hoops and wrap this bad boy up.
Yeah.
Your all Michigan State team is bad. Well, I shouldn't say y'all because
No,
it's Tim's second
it's not
team.
bad. It just doesn't have a front court or a back court or yeah.
It just doesn't have a front court or a back court. It's just got one guy really right now.
Yeah, we got
And
one guy. We got his name is Aaron Henry.
And one kind of okay guy that you never really know what you're gonna get out of him, and Joey Hauser.
And Joey Hauser, who just hasn't. It's just like he hasn't settled in, right?
Do you think
he
he'd be
hasn't.
as bad if you plucked Michigan State out and put them in the ACC or the
No.
maybe not the Pac-12 because the Big Ten is just so dominant this year. I mean,
Yeah, I think
we're talking about 10
I also
teams that
think
get in
too
the
that
tournament.
teams go on slides and like Michigan State. Tom Izzo is really bad
It's
at this.
Tom Izzo.
Yeah, it's Tom Izzo, and he's really bad at this.
It's 100%
Like
Tom Izzo.
every time Michigan State plays someone, whether Michigan State is 0-30, you are going to get the best version of that team. And Tom Izzo has never been very good at letting his players know that. Like, you're going to get that other team's best shot. The other thing, too, is like having Rocket Watts play that one when he's a natural 2 guard, it really messed with Rocket Watts. Like, his whole rhythm was off.
Oh, we might have lost him.
Oh,
Izzo has put Hogard there, and it seems to be working out. But he's a freshman, and you can see him make a lot of freshman mistakes. So there's that, and they won their last game against Rutgers on defense, which was another thing we were getting beat on. Which was, and Tom Izzo said it in a press conference, like, that's not Michigan State basketball. We can't get beat on rebounds and blocks and steal. Like, that's unacceptable. And so they put a dominant performance against Rutgers, but can they sustain it? Right? Is putting Hogard there? Here's what I was talking to my dad about this. If I can get 15 or 16 from Aaron Henry, and I can get 10, 12, 15, 60 from Joey, then most of the times we should be okay. The problem is those aren't going to be consistent numbers.
No, they're not. It's tough because you have Rocket Watts, who's really, he's a 2, but he's not because he's a ball dominant 2. He loves to have the ball in his hands, and he flourishes with the ball in his hands as well. He can attack and he can shoot. So he does a little bit of both. He's not really an off-ball guy, but he doesn't like to run the offense either.
Yeah.
And when you have Joey Hauser at the 4, he's a very solid offensive player. He's still trying to come into his own. But then when you play Thomas Kithier with him and start that lineup, like, you're starting off as just a defensive liability up at the front court, which is insane. No, I think he's surprisingly coordinated. Like, I think he's one of those sneaky athletic guys. Like,
we are watching 2 totally different
we
players.
really are because Kithier, to me, he's like in the right spot. He's kind of like Matt Costello.
Yeah.
He's always in the right spot, and he catches everything, and he finishes through contact way more than you.
Yeah, I get
way more than you think he will.
I get what all the announcers are saying. Like, he has the glue. I just don't think he has it all the time.
He has the glue, but he doesn't. But the glue is not supposed to be a starter. You need to set the tone, and they're not doing that right now at all. They're kind of the problem with this year. In Tom Izzo's, it's showing. Tom Izzo flourishes because he schedules all the hard games right away, and he figures out his 10-man rotation and is able to narrow it down while they're losing. But they have excuses because they're playing Duke, they're playing North Carolina. They go straight into
Duke might not be
another big
a
tournament.
Good blemish on the record now. Said Duke might not be a great one on the record now.
I'm talking about typically because we blew them out this year.
I know.
After the Duke game,
it's more of a shot at Duke.
I was saying this team's legit, and turns out, boy, was I wrong. Yeah. And he hasn't figured out how to narrow down his rotation at all right now, and it's really showing because you gotta start trimming that rotation down a little bit and relying on some guys and relying on Rocket to figure it out, relying on Hogard to make his freshman mistakes, but he's still gonna figure it out. Yeah. I mean, same with Sisesco. He is He's the uncoordinated one.
He gets stupid fouls. Like, he'll get a foul. The ball has already gone through the basket. Why are you fouling?
He's the uncoordinated. He's the uncoordinated athletic one, which is a very odd thing to say, but he has these weird bursts of athleticism where he goes and gets the ball, but then he trips over his own 2 feet and falls into the guy next to him.
Or the easy layup.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I'm like,
you never
right
know
there.
what you're getting out of him. It's like a flip of a coin. Like, what is he going to do this time? So he's very raw, but I think if they went with him, or they really need to throw Gabe Brown in there and just play small. And bring Rocket off the bench, just like last year when Henry wasn't really ready for it, and he needed to be more of a scorer and an energy plug off the bench. Give Rocket, like, strip all of Rocket's responsibilities away from him, throw him on the bench, and that first sub that Izzo always runs a line change for at 4 minutes. Put Rocket in and just put Rocket in and give him the ball and just start feeding him the ball and get him heating up off the bench, and he'll be fine.
Yeah, I think the other thing too that drives me crazy about Tom Izzo, and I can see him do it a lot with this team, is when you put a lineup out there that's never going to score. He does
Not
that.
only not going to score, never played together before.
Yeah, and I'm just like, why? Who is this? Like, he would do that all the time last year, where Tillman would be the primary scorer. Which, again, Tillman is fine, but he shouldn't be your primary scorer on the floor.
No.
Do you think, with the way this season's going, we have a Michigan State-less tournament?
No, absolutely not.
Big Ten's pretty good. You guys are sitting right now on the outside in. Does Izzo figure it out rotationally, offensively?
Outside looking in.
You're at 80 right now.
80 and what?
In the net.
In the net rankings.
Nate, I didn't even know what those were before our prep meeting.
You're 81 in the net rankings. I don't know if you knew this, but the tournament does not include 81 teams. And the Big Ten is so good right now. Do you gain ground?
So it gives us a ton of quad one opportunities.
This is true. Ton of quad one opportunities. Is there enough
Speaking
opportunity?
of that, is that hilarious that quad one didn't change at all, even though there's no fans at these games?
I still don't really understand the quad system, but yeah, no, it's dumb. Like, the whole thing's stupid. Like, Rutgers somehow doesn't qualify as a quad one win for y'all, even though they were sitting at 24, I think, at the time you played them. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, well, I don't know, because this was the first time I've remembered about the net rankings, so it was the first time I went on the net rankings, and it said last 24, so I don't know when they update these things either. I don't know if it was like last week before we played them, or if it was after a different Rutgers loss. I have no idea.
I would assume, like, well, I'll tell you, Jan 6th is when this was through, so it would have been before January 6th.
So it would have been, so they would have been 24 when we played.
Yeah.
So what is that?
How are they not a quad one?
Top 20?
I don't know.
I don't understand. This thing is so stupid.
Or did they update it because now they're 37? Does the quad always get adjusted?
It's too much numbers and math for my brain. I can't. This isn't my area of expertise right now.
And I mean, come on, Nate. You saying if we played today that Drake, who is number 13, would beat Michigan State? I don't think so.
No.
I'm going by the net ranking, and by the net ranking, yeah, they would just destroy you. Apparently,
even the people who created the net
with
rankings
0 quad one wins, they're
don't
13.
regard the net rankings.
Yeah.
0.
Also, aren't the net ranking they're only part of it, right?
Yeah.
They don't even matter.
That's true.
Yeah.
But it begs the question, and I have not watched a second of Drake basketball, so sorry for the 2 Drake fans out there that might be upset by this. I don't know how you rank a team 13 from, I forget what even conference they're in, who has 0 quad one wins, is undefeated. What conference are they in?
Drake is in the great MVC, Mountain Valley Conference.
Yeah, Mountain Valley Conference. They're 13th in the country. Like, what?
Is Drake even ranked?
Let's see. Let's pull it up. We're learning a lot of things in real time here, folks.
Right.
I appreciate you staying with us. This is really how it's... No, they are not ranked.
This is not dissimilar to our conversation about the net ranking last year.
Yeah.
I was going to say the prep meeting was very long today, guys.
Very, yeah. Yeah, no, they're not ranked. And the best team they've played, I guess, just looking at this, would be Kansas State, who they beat by 10. But Kansas State isn't very good. Oh, they beat Air Force There you go. That's a name. That's a brand name. I guess. Not really.
But not really.
Missouri Valley Conference.
Yeah, they've played Omaha,
Oof.
South Dakota, Air Force, Chicago State.
Yeah, there's some
What are we
there's
doing
some
here?
frauds in this
What do-
top.
What are we doing with
Oh,
this
they
net
beat
ranking?
they beat Kansas State. Did you say that, Nate? I
just
wasn't paying attention.
literally
to what you
opened with
said.
that.
Okay.
Literally the first thing I said.
I was trying to look it up at the same time too, so I wasn't listening at all.
And Kansas State, God only knows where they're ranked at this point in the year. But yeah, they're 13th in that ranking, so this makes 100% sense, right? It's a great system we have here in college basketball. What was I gonna say? I still haven't found them.
Well, I did watch the last part of that Xavier game. Second half of that.
Ballers is what you're looking for.
Oof.
You watched the best team in the country. I know it's a
You
lie.
watched
What
the
you're...
best country almost fall apart in the last.
Xavier, I think we're gonna be all right. It's
I
weird.
don't know if we were the ones that were gonna fall apart. It was a very odd because we weren't. We kind of took that game over and then we tried to give it away at the end. So
That's what I just
it
said.
was a little bit of both.
Tim's just not listening to us.
Well,
we
no,
got to
'cause
go to
weren't
we got to
playing-
go to
we weren't
counseling
playing
or
that
something.
well.
We're having
We weren't
communication
playing that well
issues
in the
here.
First half, like we only took that game over with like 5 minutes left in the game.
Yeah, you tried to give it away. In the
Then we tried to give it away.
last.
We got to get into
We only
counseling
got-
or
we
something.
only
We're
got
having
control of that
communication
game
issues
late.
here.
We didn't get control of that game until late, is what I was trying to say. It didn't come across that way.
I think
watch it. Amanda was like, wait, they're not gonna lose, are they? I was like, they shouldn't lose. I don't think St. John's has beaten Xavier in like years.
no, God, I miss Chris Mullins already. Oh,
Me too.
I miss
We
him
were
being
0 for 12 from 3 that game.
dude. It's
Yeah,
gone.
if you win a game not making a three.
We
It was
were
incredible.
what was it up until like 3 games
Paul-
ago?
Paul
Fourth best
Frischner
team in the
went back
country.
and said, I think he said that was 700 games. We were nearing 700 games straight with a made 3. The last one we didn't make a 3. We were 0 for 15 back in like 2000 against Dayton, and we won a 64-65 game in overtime.
Shows the resilience of Xavier. We can get a
Mm.
bucket when we need a bucket anywhere, except for the 3 in
Here
that
we
game.
go.
We were the 4th best team at the 3, like, I don't know, 2-3 weeks ago, and now we didn't get a single bucket from the 3 line. But
Mhm.
we found other ways. This is what I was talking about the other day. The one thing I like about these games, like I like that Travis Steele got them out the back because there's been some big COVID issues in the Big East, and with Xavier's not excluded from that. So there's been like this very like it's tough to get in. Basketball is very rhythmic. Like you got to get in a rhythm here, and it's hard when it's so disjointed. You can't practice because of COVID issues. You can't play because of COVID issues. It gets so disjointed. But the one nice thing about this is we were leaning heavily on the 3 to start the season. And there are guys out there that can normally, generally, get a bucket from 3 if we need it. But these games, this game and the last game, I think are great to get out of the way because and we saw it in this game against St. John's where when the 3 isn't going, how else can we get buckets? Where can we go? And this is a great teaching moment and a great, like, being resilient for Xavier to be like, all right, because the 3 isn't always going to be there. Like, I feel like we talk about this every March Madness. The teams that shoot the 3, it's like, well, at some point that 3 isn't going to be there, and can they get a bucket? And that's usually like some big time program. So they couldn't really do it. They didn't shoot well against Seton Hall, and then they came back in this game and they found ways to get some buckets and get the win, which is good. Like you need that going into it. You can't rely on the 3 in college basketball because it will dry up at some point. It generally dries up in March, unfortunately.
No, I totally agree, and I like the resiliency, and I like them pulling things out of their head, even though they're ugly, because this is going to be an ugly year. I mean, most games are going to be close because you don't. I said this earlier, but you're not going to see those runs actually be extended much further than a 10-0 run or a 12-0 run. You're not going to see the 20 point to 20-4 run where those leads just expand exponentially because the crowd's not there to push them past that first stop. So them being able to pull out those wins early on in the year, even though they were against terrible teams, I think is a big positive.
Yeah.
I think the Big East, similar to the Big Ten, especially if you're in that middle range of the Big East, like you're just cannibalizing each other night in after night out.
Big time.
That's the problem. The Big East too is at this point where like it's weird. Like Villanova obviously gets a ton of credit. They're and deservingly so. But it's weird. I feel like from a ranking standpoint, the Big East gets almost disrespected more than like. And the Big Ten is the best conference in college basketball. Arguably, they're the best conference. If you look at the two biggest sports in college football,
Except we haven't won a tournament in like 20 years.
In college basketball, they are top tier down the roster. Probably the best conference in both sports, football and basketball. But it feels like the Big East doesn't get as much recognition for like the fact that it does cannibalize itself. But these are still really good teams that are doing it, and I feel like it's almost a net negative in the Big East, where in the Big Ten, it's a net positive.
Yeah, it seems like the Big East doesn't get the same like
benefit
like the ACC or the Big Ten or any other like those conferences get from. You give them the benefit of the doubt, like you're playing hard games every night, and clearly in the Big East, you are playing hard games every single night.
Now, we do see the benefit when it comes to tournament selection. I will say that.
Yes.
Like, getting teams in the tournament, that definitely, like, it's a net positive there. But from a ranking standpoint, I do feel like it's a net negative, which is...
Yeah. Well, and that's how it's always...
It's weird.
A Big East team will surprise someone, and I'm always sitting at my bracket like, well, you obviously weren't watching Big East basketball.
Yeah, that's 1,000% the ESPN factor right there.
Yes, 1,000%. Because everybody not everybody, I shouldn't say it, but like most people know that like the Big East, because it iron sharpens iron. When it comes tournament time, I feel like everybody's got at least some upset in their bracket with a Big East team somewhere. Mm-hmm. It's just whether or not you guess it right in enough.
Yeah, if you see a Seton Hall or Providence, you see something.
It's a bad image. Xavier a couple years ago, it's Arizona was the 2 seed. Yep. Let's go. Yeah, so that's, I mean, and I don't think we've talked about this because the last time we talked about college basketball, I said, it's Baylor, Gonzaga, it's the field, Gonzaga versus the field, right? Like, I don't even think we put Baylor into that conversation at this point. It's Gonzaga versus the field, am I right? Or are we disagree with that?
I think it's the Zags to lose at this point. I mean, we can't discount Nova, right? I mean, you talked about them a little bit.
Yeah.
But Nova is pretty good. I don't think it looks like Shaka Smart too has
surprise of the season. Are we saying?
Yeah,
just like it's as big of a surprise as him having hair.
Yeah.
I mean, my God,
you cannot do that. We never talked about that.
He's going to lose his job.
He was.
Yeah,
he was ready to be fired with Tom Herman.
Yes.
I mean, they were both going to be walking out the door this year. And all of a sudden, he's got a top 10 team on his hands, and they look good.
Yeah,
they can be. Yeah, definitely.
I'll say I think
they were 7 when I was watching them.
Yeah, I think they're like 4 or 5 right now.
I don't know if they're still 7, but because I probably would have been watching them over the weekend. So
the net they're 9, but we know that
would make sense.
We know that isn't the official.
Yeah, let's not look at the net.
But yeah,
no, I'm not looking at the net.
Yeah,
I'm looking at the.
Yeah, they're 4.
I know, but I thought I heard Nate.
Dante's right.
Oh, they're 4.
Yeah, Dante's right.
Yeah, I knew they were 4 or 5. Yeah.
Yeah, no, surprise of the season. I don't think anybody saw that coming. At least I didn't hear it. I know I didn't see that coming, and I don't think I heard anybody in college basketball see that coming.
Oh, I don't think if you asked Shaka Smart, he would have said.
Yeah, like Tim was saying, he was going to get fired probably this year. So, surprise of the season, coach of the year potentially. Like throwing his hat in the ring for that, I think.
Was this his first year, like pulling off the press, or like what did he do differently from last? I just don't know what he did differently from last year. Because when I was watching them, they looked really good, and they weren't pressing like a Shaka Smart.
Last year wasn't bad. They just couldn't close games.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I feel like
that Texas team last year wasn't bad.
This year, he just I think got the team to buy in from an effort standpoint. Like the few games I've seen towards the end, it feels like there's more effort, as Dante's alluding to close out games. Like last year, they just didn't do it. They fell apart.
Yeah,
this year, there seems
really late.
Yeah, it's a full game effort. It feels like this year.
Yeah, and then you look up, and you know, in any conference, you don't close out games. You'll look up and be 0-5. Ask Michigan State, who ended up 0-3.
Yeah, right.
Happens in a second. Any other thoughts before we wrap this up? Basketball.
Yeah, one quick question. on Xavier, Nate. Does Dewan Odom know he's playing for a D1 program? I saw him with like cut off sleeveless shirt. Like he knows he can just go to the equipment manager and get a new one, right?
Yeah, I saw that. Not a great look. Like we're not. I don't even know who to compare us to right now. Like we're not. We're not like Northern Kentucky across the river.
No, he's a freshman.
Yeah, he's a freshman.
He had a sleeveless shirt on underneath his jersey like a normal person, but he had cut off sleeves. Like you could see him.
Like you could tell. Yeah, he took a pair of scissors
to him. And I was like, did he like just rip those off by hand or take some scissors to him? Like he knows he can get whatever type of fitting shirt he wants.
Maybe it's his Michael Jordan. Maybe that's his
True. Yeah. True. Hey man, look good, feel good, play good. Maybe he feels like Superman with that look. I don't know. I did notice it.
I was shocked when I saw it.
I didn't notice that at all, but now next time I watch the Xavier game, I'm gonna look.
Yeah.
This was the first time I noticed it. Nate, have you noticed it before? Is it like a
I want to say
because this was the first time I've seen it.
I forget what.
So is it just his white one?
No, there was one other game where I feel like he wore it. I'm drawing a blank now. But I have noticed it one other. I want to say maybe it was the first game he played. I don't remember. He definitely had it at another point. I'm almost about to Google it, but it might not be worth holding up the ending of the show.
I don't know if that's a Googleable thing. I don't know if anybody's really talking about that besides us.
Everybody who's like still listening is like, can we just like wrap this shit up?
Yeah, can you wrap this up?
I don't care about your fucking. Yeah, no, he was wearing the full like sleeves because that's what he normally does. When did he?
Maybe he got hot.
Maybe.
No, it was at the beginning of the game.
He got hot at shoot around.
Yeah, he's normally got the T-shirt on, or he doesn't have it at all. Yeah, he's usually got the T-shirt on.
We're gonna have him on the podcast and ask him.
No, yeah. Hey man.
So what happened? What made you? What went through your head where you decided to just rip your sleeves off rather than just going to get a different one?
Did Travis Steele say you had to earn sleeves and just rip them off you? Like what happened here?
Hilarious.
All right. Any other final thoughts before we wrap this up?
Nope.
Indiana's tied with Wisconsin right now in overtime.
I know. Apparently. I saw that.
So
I have to go watch that.
About to throw that on. We'll wrap that up. We will talk to you another week. As always, peace.
Peace.
Peace.